Watch softly through yonder window breaks, for it is a helicopter, and here comes Frank West. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Dónde está el baño?
Ow, fuck! Ow! Was that Spanish? Are you supposed to be Mexican or something?
Of course not! I'm Egyptian.
So, what's going on here anyway?
You plummeted horrifically from that helicopter, didn't you? What did you see?
Something moratorium, something, a little extreme.
Almost as if there's an anime convention going on.
A what now?
Anime. Japanese cartoons. Web shit.
Oh, right, weeb shit. Gross.
It's been 8 fucking years since I last got to talk about Dead Rising. I'm a little older, a little wiser, my hair isn't as thick and full as it used to be, and it's far more gray. I've gone from only having to shave once a week to having to do it constantly, and no, I don't mean daily. Every time the video cuts to game footage, I'm frantically shaving off screen. It's a gypsy curse. Don't ask about it.
Nice camera.
Hello, baby. Do you miss me?
Anyway, out of the fucking blue, Capcom announces we're finally getting the quality of life upgrade we were clamoring for nearly a goddamn decade ago, and you bet your ass I was getting on top of that immediately. I'm not going to go into the minutia of what Dead Rising is. You should know by now. A journalist ends up in a mall in a town with a zombie outbreak and has 3 days to survive and uncover the true story. Despite being unwieldy at times, the game was an overall tough-as-nails nightmare romp, juxtaposing a tense story with batshit insanity brought on by the complete breakdown of civilization that the town had been undergoing. It was a cult classic, and one of my all-time favorites, warts and all. But the announcements came with some controversy, and I've spoken about how we all have our turn on the pyre, and my only wish is that my day wouldn't come because of Dead Rising of all things. So, is today that day? Is the controversy all it's really hyped up to be? How do the quality of life improvements service longtime fans? How many more questions am I going to ask before we dive straight into the shopaholic bromance that is the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster?
Gotcha, mama.
Stay away from that, Gramps!
Oh, hey, buddy. I'm looking for the food court. Can you help a brother out?
Everyone used to laugh at me.
I just need some lunch. Maybe, like a Sparrows or a Rallies? I'd even take a Taco Bell at this point.
I was a walking punchline. But not anymore.
Ooh, do you guys have Taco Del Mar? Do you have Taco Del Mar in Colorado? Listen, buddy, you're not very helpful. I hate cosplayers.
I'm gonna shake things up and kind of go a different route and start off with the graphical overhaul, since that's the first thing the game starts us off with, and they do a really bad job of setting up expectations. Dig, if you will, a picture. In the original title, hitting New Game immediately threw the player into a chopper on their way to the Willamette Parkview Mall, but if you were to hang out on the title screen long enough, you get a pseudo-prequel cutscene acting as the classic attract mode. This cutscene has now been moved to the start of a New Game, and I otherwise wouldn't be talking about it or the glaring issue with it, save for the fact that they felt it needed to be front and center. It's a small and otherwise would have been meaningless background flub that doesn't matter, except that they decided to specifically draw my attention to it. See this billowing smoke? Did you notice that? The smoke materializes entirely out of nowhere, moving left to right rather than up, and even right at the end you can see it spreading downward. From nothing. Literally just fading into existence right in front of the player. Again, normally this would be something you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it and should have only been in the background, but by forcing the player to stare directly at it, you draw all the attention in the world to it, and you couldn't even be bothered to make sure it was showing off a glaring fucking issue. How wonderful! Yes, the RE framework and whatever other engines were involved are seriously starting to show their age, and worse, they're showing the sheer lack of effort when it came to making sure the new graphics weren't completely annihilating everything. Case in point, explosions. Dead Rising had a weird goddamn aesthetic with somewhat lower resolution models and textures, played against Ultra 8K graphics explosions. Well, that weird but oddly endearing aesthetic is not only sacrificed, but explosions in this game kinda look like shit and are super toned down. No more prominently is this displayed than in the introductory sequence wherein the tornado gas station explodes. It's a huge, bombastic event while the player's getting used to shooting photos, and in the Deluxe Remaster, it's utterly wimpy. Downright anemic in comparison, and that goes for every explosion in the game, actually. Then you add in the weird, I don't know, filter? Grain? I left Gamma alone for the most part, doing my best to see where it looked like they wanted me to have it at, yet multiple scenes in the game get blown out like the Gamma was turned up, losing the tone it had just 2 seconds ago. I don't get it. I don't know what feature is causing that to happen or if it's entirely intentional, but it results in multiple situations where the picture looks like it's losing half of its quality. Which kind of fucking sucks because graphically the game looks great. They took great care to stay faithful to the game's visual aesthetic, including characters moving around like Muppets much of the time. New textures mesh perfectly with how they used to look, and for the most part it is a remaster that does justice to the original, but sometimes things just keep popping up, fucking the entire show over. And that is in fact going to be a running theme, because now I kinda need to talk about the new voice acting.
I am going to commit a great crime. I will do a terrorism.
Oh, okay.
Everyone at this convention will die, and you're just in time for the fireworks. Boom!
That sounds good to me.
I'm sorry. You two seem really nonchalant about this whole situation. I'm literally about to blow up a lot of people.
They're weebs! They don't legally constitute people.
Yeah, I just kinda wanna be done with this crap.
Oh, I mean, do you want to maybe help me out then?
Sure, sounds fun.
Jas Patrick, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, maybe it's a soft J like, yes, Patrick, does a phenomenal job as Frank West. The man understood the assignment, and he performs Frank West's self-important, mid-30s petulant journalist attitude as if he was the guy all along. He nails every line and even hits its more stilted moments. Tiana Camacho handles Isabella just fine, though she seems to struggle at the start, and Luis Bermudez, who again I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, with the few lines Carlito has, does an incredible job, especially when combined with just how devilishly handsome Carlito is now. And just about everybody else fucks the entire game over. Most of the psychopaths sound great, aside from Steven, who went from a severely mentally broken man violently grasping onto the last normalcy he knew, to a just sadly comedic attempt.
Listen to me, and listen good, partner. I don't allow vandalism in my store!
Listen to me, and listen good, partner.
I don't allow vandalism in my store!
Who will run my store when I'm gone?
Who will run my store when I'm gone?
Clean up Register 6!
Clean up! Register 6!
Further, Brock, the final boss of Overtime mode, just absolutely phones it the fuck in.
Well, what have we here?
Well, what have we here?
Where were you hiding when my men mopped up the mall?
Where were you hiding when my men mopped up the mall?
On a mission, in which the number of targets is unclear. It's difficult to ensure absolute thoroughness.
On a mission, in which the number of targets is unclear. It's difficult to ensure absolute thoroughness.
As prey, you and your kind are much more stubborn than the zombies.
As prey, you and your kind are much more stubborn than the zombies.
Hell, it's the only thing we truly excel at.
Hell, it's the only thing we truly excel at.
The quiet severity backed by experience that Brad's dialogue held has been replaced by the most generic black extra in an action game delivery I've ever heard. I was genuinely expecting him to drop a big snood or tell me he was 2 weeks from retirement. He was the experience, the grizzled veteran, the control in a situation that was above everyone's head but his. He brought the calm and direction in an insane situation, and all that's just fucking gone.
Damn. You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank? A hot-headed, underhanded, hotshot paparazzi with nothing better to do than to invade people's privacy.
Damn. You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank? A hot-headed, underhanded, hotshot paparazzi with nothing better to do than to invade people's privacy.
But that doesn't mean we can tell you everything. And everything we do tell you can't necessarily be printed.
Yeah, so?
So, I just want you to appreciate the situation.
And everything we do tell you can't necessarily be printed.
Yeah, so?
So, I just want you to appreciate the situation.
He plans to spread zombies outside of the city? Is he insane?
He plans to spread zombies outside of the city? Is he insane?
Oh shit, man. Oh no, hold on, you can't come back yet. I need to do some cringe horny posting real quick, so bear with me. Yes, my sweet, succulent, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, big-booby Jessie has returned. And she's been replaced with a D-tier anime dubber. She's not outright terrible, but it's clear she's not the right choice. She doesn't really nail that feigned aloofness that falls apart as rapidly as the situation devolves. She gave it her all, and I'm not gonna fault her for trying, but she really just wasn't the right person for the job. Do you remember how bad I said Brad is? Well, Dr. Barnaby is way fucking worse.
Why did you summon me to this place? What are you planning?
Why did you summon me to this place? What are you planning?
Protect! More like imprison!
Protect! More like imprison.
Do you have any idea how much meat Americans consume in a single day?
Do you have any idea how much meat Americans consume in a single day?
Phil Proctor, the original voice actor, was 66 when Dead Rising released. Not only that, but he had a long, distinguished career that displayed the range and expertise needed to take a B-horror plot and sell its severity enough to get the player on board. Blood Omen, Night Court, Freddy's Nightmares, Fresh Prince, I Think the Young and the Restless, Champions of Norath, fucking Disney and Pixar, goddamn Biodome, the Spider-Man cartoon everyone loves, Rugrats, Tom Clancy games, Gun, The Lord of Bones from Darksiders 2, it just keeps going. Expertise and panache, even if he's not an A-lister. He's not the only one from the original that had this long storied career. even if I gave him this extra attention, I just wanted to draw attention to it right here. Frank Tadaro is an anime dubber. Again. Anime games, etc. He's about 47 at the time of the release, but he sounds like he's 3 decades younger than that, and trying to do an impression of a crotchety 90-year-old. He sounds like a teenager who is friends with a developer, being allowed to voice Gerald Robotnik in a Sonic Rush spin-off, and it's blatant and impossible to ignore right from the get-go. Man, they really fucked this up. It used to be that Frank was the odd man out. On one side was the seriousness of the situation and the government's involvement, on the other side was the pure insanity, and in the middle was just his goofy incredulousness. Everyone's a cartoon character now. They took a cast of storied actors who worked their damnedest to create the atmosphere and tension to juxtapose against the insanity and sell an absolutely classic story, and replaced it all with 4Kids tier dubbers and Resident Evil spin-offers, half of whom are phoning it in hardcore. And all to justify a couple extra lines of dialogue over the radio. And I mean like 3 in total. How the hell are you going to do that? Otis now has voice acting, so to justify the one time Jesse and Brad or Isabella call you, they have to sacrifice everything? Nah, dog. I can't get behind that. So I guess we can move on to talk about the soundtrack now. Well, the good news is they brought back the entirety of it, and it's all 100% bangers from front to back, and if you disagree, you bang dudes by choice. Which brings us to the quality of life changes.
Believe it or not, I'm shopping around in a mall infested with weebs. They eat flesh and they stink, and they're into femboys. They're not zombies. Believe it or not, they're just weebs.
Goddamn! This is the best A Dead Rising has ever felt to play. A strange decision due to Capcom having literally zero market research at the time was that the reason Frank was an out-of-shape mid-30s doofus is because they legitimately thought that was what appealed to most American audiences. And considering American TV at the time, it's kind of easily understandable why. But Frank was always a struggle to maneuver, and doing anything other than jumping or running came with huge risk as a result of the core mechanics. I've been playing the game since day one, and even to this day, a bad decision followed by forgetting a psychopath just spawned still screws me over from time to time because sluggish movement can really do just that much damage. And that shit's gone! Frank moves smoothly, the lengthy and insane recovery to doing literally anything has been removed, and special attack inputs have been made simpler, and the frame-perfect input timing has been removed. Frank's dodge, which you had to unlock and featured a lengthy recovery that got you injured just as often as it helped you avoid injury, is now given to the player at the start and has a dedicated button on the modern control setting. Aside from removing the lengthy recovery, they gave it a lengthy cooldown, making it reliable and satisfying to use, but still requiring planning due to not being able to get anywhere close to spamming it. As I mentioned, special attack timing has been completely nuked with much more generous windows for inputs, though it does come with the problem of the timing window for the flip kick being so long that half the time I wanted to jump kick, I thought I had waited long enough and still ended up doing the flip kick. It's a little too generous and it gets in the way, but it's not terrible. Overall, the combat has been smoothed out and feels less janky, although I watched countless times as a weapon would pass through a zombie without damaging it, and zombies still have this lovely tendency to grab you even as you are running a chainsaw through them, and they should be going through a stun animation. The biggest overall improvements come to the survivor AI. Their pathfinding and general ability to avoid being grabbed has been vastly improved to the point that in my entire playthrough, I only had one survivor get grabbed once. And this isn't to say that the game has become piss easy. I remind you that I've completed this game probably 100 times, and loading into a zone and getting 1 second to survey a path ahead is all I really need to chart my own route and judge where it's best to clear said path. The survivor AI in the original release is so bad that in a room with only one single zombie on the opposite side of the hall, they would run over and get grabbed by it. It's bad! Even the best of the best had to cheese the shit out of the mechanics, and here when I'm not doing it, the AI is following along well enough to take advantage of the paths I've made without getting grabbed by zombies that haven't even taken notice of them yet. It makes them far easier to manage, allowing the player greater grace when it comes to having to order survivors to wait somewhere while they handle a psychopath on their way back to the safe room. On top of improved AI, sometimes survivors will point out hidden weapons or PP stickers that the player hasn't taken notice of or collected yet, so aside from just being better, they're now actually getting a bit more helpful. A genuine reminder that this won't make the game outright easy, but it removes the headache associated with them and even begins to help benefit the player. Auto-saving is now super generous, saving literally every time you transition to a new area and sometimes when you complete a boss. The old trappings of walking to a place that was previously safe only to find new psychopaths have spawned and you weren't prepared screwing you over are gone. You can still get blindsided, but improved controls and a bit more lenient of a save system lower the penalty the player suffers. The game was built to be friendly to abandoning a playthrough due to screwing up too hard and trying it over but with the levels you've gained, but it wasn't perfect and the sheer amount of time lost was far too awkward and punishing for broader audiences. If Majora's Mask's time rewinds are quick and painless and designed to be done regularly, having to restart a Dead Rising cycle costs you 5 entire hours. With the autosaves and new ability to fast forward time, if you aren't confident in doing the side objectives, you can now just get right past them as you learn more about the mall and get better at fighting enemies and plotting your routes. Speaking of fast-forwarding time, with all the effort put toward quality of life improvements, it strikes me as odd that they still left the player nothing to do for the 10 entire in-game hours on the last day, except grind Spec Ops soldiers and collect PP stickers that they hadn't yet. It's also odd that for everything getting changed and getting new voice actors to justify those changes, the game endings are still just text cards. You kill Brock, cut to credits, white text on black background. Why? Whatever. Various mechanical changes like being able to move while aiming non-scoped weapons, plus a few other mechanical improvements that just make it all work far more smoothly show up, but they don't exactly need to be called out. It really is the absolute greatest a Dead Rising has played, without really sacrificing too much of the difficulty or its tough-as-nails identity, though it did left me wishing that there were more options for difficulty for returning long-time fans. It was piss easy for me because I'm the Ubermensch with Frank, so making him control well just made me a god. Also, you can do these things now.
Come on!
So it plays so much fucking better than anyone could have ever hoped for, but it came at a huge cost. The acting is bad. It's not even a matter of opinion, multiple people just straight up half-ass it. The RE framework does a lot of heavy lifting, but it's clear that attention to detail fell through the cracks a lot, and the graphics are constantly struggling to not shit themselves. There's a lot I can look past. Core performance? That can be fixed. The complete loss of the tone and atmosphere? Well, new players aren't going to know what's lost, and there's always the Todd Howard route, I guess. But oftentimes what can't be fixed is the controversy that a game comes with.
Have I ever told you the definition of insanity? What? Insanity, as defined by the Oxford Dictionary, is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, and expecting shit to change. Wrong game. What? Wrong game, dude. This is Dead Rising. Oh, whoops, my bad. Do you have any idea how much anime Americans consume every day? Yeah, it's kind of weird and gross. It's pretty fucked up.
Oh my god, he's dead!
God, I wish that were me.
Same. There's more problems with this game than even the grifters and commentators really know about. First, let's talk about Larry. Let's be real, the depiction of Larry was pretty racist. It was funny, it still is funny, but they can't really do that again. You know, I'm something of a racist myself, so join me on stream while I lament the tragic miscegenation of francophones and Laplanders. That's right, Switzerland! I'm fucking coming for you. But, why did you have to race swap Larry? He looks like my actual granddad on his strongman steroid abuser arc. You couldn't have just cleaned him up? I mean, I get it. Maybe you couldn't have gotten away with that a second time, but why did he have to become a giant buff white dude? That kinda seems like a bit extreme of a change.
A little extreme.
The next thing that caused controversy was them removing the line where Clint calls Frank a commie. Assumedly, they did this to avoid offending the Chinese government. Assumedly, to avoid it being banned from sale in the country. You know, the country known for banning games featuring the amount of violence and gore that Dead Rising features. Also, the credits didn't list any Chinese voice actors. So, how's that working out for you, Capcom? Probably didn't need to do that, did ya? The next bit of controversy is the removal of the erotica category for photos. And I get it, eroticizing the dead is called necrophilia, and the photographer who does that is a boss you kill, so maybe rewarding Frank for doing it isn't the best route to go. But they also censored the sexy dress? And Cheryl, the survivor who wears that sexy dress, still asks you to take erotic photos of her for extra PP stickers? And, yeah. That's a fucking problem. If you want to remove sexy zombie photos being rewarded, I get it, but censoring the dress is kind of questionable, and keeping in the softcore porn shoot certainly doesn't help. It's not the change that's the problem, it's the sum of the changes and the lack of consistency in their reasoning and application. The dress was censored, but they're planning to do a deluxe remaster for Dead Rising 2, a game that takes place in an analog of Las Vegas, which featured far more prominently scantily clad women, and overall, most of the women wore even less than that dress. So the inconsistency is now causing concern for the future. Can we now assume those women will be censored too? What about the tiger boss? I think it was called Snowflake? Will that be removed to appease PETA? Will Tyrone be changed due to his name being a meme and his resemblance to P. Diddy? What the fuck does the future look like if you're willing to do this? Do you see the issue? The changes themselves can be mostly waved away in a vacuum, but they don't exist in one. They go from A to B to C, but there's a clear disconnect between A and C, which leaves a lot of questions that go unanswered, and all that's left is the inconsistency. I'm not inclined to believe the removal of the erotica tag was for political reasons, but due to the lack of consistency in your application, I can't rule it out anymore. And that's a whopper of a red flag. And it's all coming to a very unsatisfying and unenthusiastic head when we get to the last major controversy few people will probably talk about, because most are dipshits who don't have jobs and thus don't have to worry about the cost of a game, and because it's not political, the commentators won't know it even happened. The game was rushed to launch. It's buggy as fuck and crashes damn near constantly during overtime mode on PC. People are reporting acquiring all the day-based unlocks for infinite mode despite dying on day one. And it's not the first time this year Capcom tried reviving one of their beloved but dormant IPs, only to half-ass it, rush it out the door, make utterly stupid decisions, and ask their players to just ignore the fact they have a DLC shop on something they knew wasn't fit for release. I had one wish. Do you remember what it was? It wasn't for a new Dead Rising. I was okay with the series staying dead. The harsh reality is, Dead Rising is Tromaville. It will never be James Cameron. The fans will be a small segment of a niche. Each game added new things and changed a bunch, and every time they gained a new fan, they lost an old one. It will never be mainstream successful. Yes, it's good enough that it can make an indie studio's lifeblood, but to become as successful as Devil May Cry or Resident Evil, it will have to sacrifice everything that Fuck! It'll have to sacrifice everything that it is. I accept that. I never wished for a new one. I never even dreamed there would be updated gameplay to make the one we had better. I had one wish. I love burning sacred cows, but we all have our day on the pyre. My one wish was that when my turn came, it wouldn't be because of Dead Rising. Bring back McGee. Make 4 new Alice games, each more detached from what the original was, yet more successful than the last. Make EA and Ubisoft the most successful companies on the planet. But when the witches run out, and it comes my turn to burn, don't let it be because of Dead Rising. And just how fucking fitting is it that I'm sitting here having to eat shit because of Dead Rising? I can excuse a lot of problems here. Maybe Todd Howard was right and releasing broken buckets of fuck just so the fans can mod them is in fact a good idea, and I just needed to wait for someone to mod the original cast back in. But the censorship doesn't make sense, and it's done for reasons that aren't congruent with their implementation and only raise concerns for the franchise's future. On top of that, they refused to let it have the time it needed to not be a buggy, broken bucket of fuck! They forced corners to be cut when they didn't need to be, and every aspect of the game, save for the core mechanics, has absolutely suffered as a result. So I'll take it! I'm happy my turn finally came and it can be done with. Throw the rotten fruit, pour gasoline on the flames, just rough me up, daddy, I've been a bad girl. But you're not off the hook, Capcom. This represents a massive fucking problem. I remind you, this is twice in 2024. But I don't think it's a politics or my modern audience's problem. I think that part is a symptom of something worse. I thought we were past this with Monster Hunter World, Devil May Cry 5, and Street Fighter 6, but it's very apparent that we are not. That thing that I think is worse and is leading to all that other shit is that Capcom has an absolute aversion to putting their best foot forward when it comes to the launch of any title that isn't those 3 I mentioned or Resident Evil. They're not willing to take the chances to potentially upset pearl clutchers if it means the smaller title pleases its audience and potentially finds new members. They're not willing to give studios the time and budget they really need to not screw over the game, the devs who pour so much into it, and their customers. They've gone back to being incredibly risk-averse, and it's causing severe problems just like it did in the 2010s. We were supposed to be beyond this, but it's become painfully obvious I was wrong. You are willing to screw customers over when it comes to the smaller IPs due to a business level of cowardice, and I just can't be involved with that. Monster Hunter? Unless I get a whiff of shenanigans, you bet your ass I'm still on board. Devil May Cry? Hell fucking yeah! But I don't play fighting games anymore, and I ran out of fucks to give about Resident Evil years ago, so your offerings are getting really slim. If you aren't willing to put your best foot forward on the smaller IPs and you're willing to make unnecessary changes for reasons that it's only getting harder to deny any political agenda behind, I can't be willing to give you my money for them. I don't get paid to do this. I work for my money, and part of my purpose is to maintain that customer level perspective because that is what is best for the dialogue. I have the investment so I can effectively assess the game at its value and give you customer level feedback to help you improve. But if you are going to be so cowardly as to screw over and make decisions so erratic they bring everything into question, I can't offer you that anymore. I can't waste my time, my money, or my energy. Whatever the future of Dead Rising is, I'm not part of it. If this game is good enough for you, I'm glad. When you want hard mode, play the original. It has better voice acting. But this makes twice you've screwed me this year, Capcom, so this is the last bit of charitability I will ever have for you. I'm done with your smaller IPs. I'm still here for Monster Hunter and DMC, but if I get the slightest whiff of bullshit, I'm waiting until it's absolutely proven to be false. And even then, I'm not giving you full price no fucking more. But if it ever comes back true, and you give a single middle finger more to the customer, I'm done rocking with you until one of us ceases to exist. I haven't given Electronic Arts a single fucking penny in 12 years. I don't bluff when it comes to my money. We know when the tide comes in and out. Maybe the first mate is a backstabber. Maybe the ombudsman is just bad at his job. Maybe the chaplain is giving you bad advice. Or maybe you've gone senile and forgotten all the lessons you learned over the last decade. But we know when the tide comes in and out. Start figuring out where the right place to drop the anchor is, because the next time I wake up and the ship's aground, I'm getting off and I won't be coming back. And that's that. I get to eat shit over this, be it political or just cowardly dipshittery. They fucked it all up as far as I'm concerned. If you aren't a longtime fan, you won't know just how bad they fucked over the voice acting, but you'll still play a damn fun game. Holy shit, those improvements really nailed it. But as for me, Dead Rising, along with all their other side IPs, is fucking dead. Just as with the release of 4, and Capcom is permanently on their last fucking straw with me. I'm Lars Umlaut in a maid outfit, and you can go fuck yourselves.
Man, I sure am glad I let you talk me into helping you blow up that mall full of weebs.
It was my pleasure.
I feel like we really made a difference here today. Like, there's hope for the future.
Stick with me, kid. We can do a hell of a lot more good in this world in the future to come.
You know, I think this is the start of a beautiful you falling off a cliff.
Wait, what did you— Ah!
Son of a bitch!